I call the member for Bowman.
Mr Deputy Speaker, we meet here this afternoon because in this global shock we have mounting unemployment in this country and stresses that small business have not seen for a decade. And as I see members from the other side exiting this chamber, they could stay around a little bit and learn a little bit more about the plight of small business whom they don't meet in their own electorate. Members Reid and Monaro, Dobell, Isaacs, Macon, Fremantle, Parramatta, Ford, Longman, Leichhardt, Bonner, Solomon, Page and Brand, I implore you, stick around. I don't like seeing the back of you, just as small businesses in your electorate see the back of you, because this government has abandoned them, Mr Deputy Speaker. The stimulus package by this government, if you compare all stimulus packages around the world, has the least in it for small business of any you'll find around the world. And you only need to look at what the US has done, what OECD economies have done in Europe, because when you look at Australia, it was basically cash payments that were very poorly directed and construction stimulus straight to commercial building of multi-purpose halls around schools, for whom I'm not about to criticise the importance of funding to schools, but there was never a better time than this year to protect our small business that is, as the member for Moncrieff has said, the backbone of this economy. For those nearly 4 million Australians who work in small business, I rise today to speak. And we, in fact, propose this MPI for that very reason. Now, what we have here effectively is a government that's abdicated its responsibility and a minister that we've heard full of bluff and bluster, a souffle-like attempt to defend the record of this government, which is appalling, on the back of one survey result that came out this week. And without being any kind of analyst myself, can I say the greatest likelihood of a good survey result in a poll is an atrocious one the poll before. And when it collapses in May, of course there will be some sort of bounce back in June that can be of a record quantity purely because of the collapse the month before. And therein explains the whole reason why we have a small bit of good news, which of course is always welcome on this side of the chamber. Mr Deputy Speaker, what we have on this side was a coherent approach to protect small business. From the government, they virtually turned a blind eye. I want to give just a little bit of history. Remember in 2008, when they should have been preparing for the economic crisis, they were holding 2020 forums, bringing in actors like Kate Blanchett and shamelessly politicising her instead of preparing for the threats this economy faced. In 2009, egging on the Reserve Bank to 4 interest rate increases over 7 months when not another developed economy was doing that. While other economies stared down small levels of inflation that were mostly due to drought-induced commodity price increases and to increases in petroleum prices, it was Australia that blinked and put enormous pressures on small business, which will not be forgotten in wider Australia. Now, what this side has done is come up with meaningful alternatives. Net operating loss carryback provisions, which I welcome for strongly performing small businesses that hit a wall in this economy. On the other side, we've seen virtually nothing except depreciation arrangements that help only the smallest proportion of small business. We needed so much more from this government, we didn't see it. It's worth making an international comparison as well, that economies in banking crisis are suffering extraordinary economic pain, but it was this country that had strong banks, a very small manufacturing sector compared to resources, and most importantly of all, no net loss, no net debt, thanks to the Howard government that put us in an ideal place to be able to stimulate the economy. What we saw was a Prime Minister who panicked, who went across to the G20, listened to all of the foreboding predictions by economies that had banking crises themselves. They had problems with return on investments, with return on equity, they had net interest margins that were very small, massive exposure to derivatives, liquidity and cash to total assets that were very small. All of those reasons meant that these countries were in enormous peril, but it was this country that forgot small business when they stimulated. They stimulated inefficiently and wastefully, and Australia will now see the results in significant increases in unemployment and in a government that has been able to focus on nothing more than the retail sector and the very, very small portion of this economy that represents.
Being 4:30 p.m, I propose the question that the House are now adjourned.